Hey everybody, it's Ron and Debbie. We're back for another edition of Ask Ron. All right, Ron, our first question is from Aaron Powell from Georgia.
Hey, hello Aaron. Thank you for telling me where you're from.
Okay, Aaron's got multiple properties using work for equity exit strategy.
Good.
How do you handle insurance on work for equity deals regarding the issue of tenant buyers getting hurt when fixing the house?
Well, you handle insurance on work for equity like you do any other house. You got to get a liability policy, and that's what it covers is when they get hurt fixing the house. Now, you should check with your attorney on that to see if there's anything else you can do, but that's all you really need is a liability policy, which you should have with any insurance.
Okay. All right, next is from Zoey from Massachusetts.
Hello, Zoey.
What are the appropriate steps to take in order to transfer a property out of an LLC to use as a primary residence?
All right, well, Zoe, first of all, better check with your CPA on that transfer because it could be taxable. You just can't move it from an LLC to your individual use without possibly having some kind of tax consequence. But the process is easy. Your LLC deeds it to your land trust. It's pretty easy. A manager of your LLC will sign the deed as manager and deed it to the trustee of your land trust, which in my opinion should be one of your entities.
Okay, good. That was the rest of her question too. Okay, and another question from Zoe. One objection from free and clear property owners is that they need cash to purchase a second house. I wonder how to handle this type of objection in order to turn them into owner financing prospects.
Well, one question is how much cash do you need? And if it's a small amount, then that comes back down. You might be able to give them that on down payment. If it's a large amount, then your only other option is, well, would you consider going and refinancing your house, and then I'll take over your debt as soon as you close the loan, and you can take all that money and do whatever you want to do with it. And I'll buy your house for whatever you refinance it for. And I'll make the payment on it until I get it cashed out in the near future. Sometimes they will say yes, most of the time they won't, and that's all you can do. If they need a lot of cash, that's the only way for you to get it to them.
Okay, and she had one final question about partnering with real estate agents on high-end properties. We might not mind splitting down payments with a real estate agent to cover her commission. Any tips or forewarnings for partnering with an agent for owner financing deals?
Yeah, don't do it. You have no reason to partner with an agent just to take care of commission. If nothing else, give them a note for the commission, but don't make them a partner. You don't want an agent in your life telling you what to do and how to run your business. No partners, don't need it. Deferred payment, no problem with that, but not partnership.
Okay, Karen Lambert from Florida says she holds a real estate license and wants to know what are the benefits of keeping it active.
Well, there are several, Karen. Number one, you actually get commissions if you perform any of the functions of a realtor. Number two, when you're out here doing the pretty house business, sometimes people will just say, I'm just going to go list it. And then you can say, well, okay, well then why don't I just go ahead and list it? And what you've done is that you've gone in the back door to create the relationship with the seller. You see, as soon as they put this thing online that they're selling it, they're going to get pounded with realtors trying to get them to list it. And they just tell them to go pound sand, but now you're in a conversation with them about buying the house, so you're entering the back door, and so you're a better chance to list it. Plus, you also need to let all of your agent friends know that you do terms deals, so that if they don't work out on a traditional method, they can possibly refer them to you. In addition to that, as a licensee, you have the MLS at your fingertips, which means you also may get the inside track to REO, bank-owned properties, before they actually go on the market. So there's plenty of advantages. The only disadvantage is you have to disclose that you're an agent if you do any public advertising and at the point of a meaningful relationship. Not that big of a deal. The upside is bigger than the downside, but I always tell them, don't go get a license just because you think it's going to make you more money. It's not. They don't teach you how to do the real estate business in licensing school. They teach you how to pass the test. In fact, they don't even teach you how to be an agent in licensing school. But license won't hurt you. Could help you, but not necessary if you don't have one. And you told me you have one, so use it.
Okay, next is from Nick Desmond from Illinois.
Hey, Nick.
This is regarding sandwich lease options in Illinois. Can you do them?
Yes.
Are there any additional forms or hoops to jump through to get them done?
Not that I know of.
Any additional advice?
No.
Hope that helped, Nick.
They work in Illinois like they work everywhere else, Nick.
Okay, this is from Scott Tayeb from California.
Scott?
These are some of the details to a question apparently he had last week. So
Alright.
he's written back in. Wells Fargo has 2 mortgage loans in first and second position
Right.
on a property of a total loan amount of $200,000. A credit union has a judgment lien against the home for a repossessed car from 2010 for $30,000. Wells Fargo has approved the short sale for $65,000.
Right.
ARV is $165,000, repairs are $20,000. The problem, the credit union's collection attorney that is in third position is not accepting the $500 that Wells Fargo has offered them for the $30,000 owed. Express. The credit union's attorney is okay with not collecting anything and letting the home foreclose. We were advised to file for bankruptcy by an attorney who claims that the trustee will allow the short sale to go through and get rid of the judgment lien. This bankruptcy process will cost $3,500 and be completed in 30 days. Here's the question. The sellers would like me to pay for the bankruptcy since they have no money. Would you take this risk, or are the odds not in my favor?
Geez, why don't you ask me a complicated question? First of all, the bankruptcy is not as simple as you think, and your sellers don't have any idea what they're about to go into if they file bankruptcy. It is very complicated, time-consuming. They're not going to like the process. They are going to discover everything that they have, and I'm telling you, I don't ever suggest anybody file bankruptcy. Now, one thing you could do, if you have the agreement to pay $65,000 on the first mortgage, what I would do is I'd ask the same bank if I could buy the loan instead of them satisfying it. That means you can borrow private money to buy the existing mortgage just as easy as you can borrow private money to put a new mortgage on the house, if you understand what I'm saying. Your attorney can put a lien on the existing mortgage to satisfy your private lender. It's called a collateral security agreement or something similar. What that means is if you take possession of the first mortgage, if you own the first mortgage, now you can be the one that files foreclosure and wipe off all the other liens, and that attorney giving you a hard time on that third one can go pound sand because there's nothing he can do. He's going to get wiped off. He's actually just playing Monopoly with them. He's telling them, I'm not going to take your $500, go do whatever you want to do, and I'll act accordingly later. He knows he's going to take a huge discount. He's just not ready to go from $30,000 down to $500 based on what I see. And I can't say as I blame him. He's playing the game. However, if you want to buy the house now, you can always get the deed from the seller. Nothing's stopping you from doing that right now. That makes you the owner of the property. But clearing up that title, you can only do it with negotiation or doing it with foreclosure. Those are the only 2 options that you have. And I'm sure you probably didn't understand what I just said, but you give me a complicated question, you're going to get a complicated answer. Get an attorney and see if he can give you any advice on what to do next with that house.
Okay, next is Tommy from Roanoke, Virginia.
Let me go back a minute.
Okay.
A point I forgot to make is, just because that seller, better get this one now. First, I want you to verify that that $30,000 car loan is attached to the house. Because just because it's a judgment on the seller does not mean it's attached to the house. If it's not attached to the house, it's a moot point. You don't have to even deal with it. And they would have literally had to file, they would have had to have a motion to attach it to the house. It doesn't attach to the house just because it becomes a judgment in many states. So check that first. If that is the case, understand this. If your seller files bankruptcy, that does not remove that lien off that house. All that does is relieve them from the obligation to pay it. Bankruptcy does not remove liens. So the debt is still going to be there, bankruptcy or no bankruptcy. So the only option to clear up that title is to deal with that third lien holder, or, like I said, buy the first and foreclose them all.
Okay. All right. Tommy from Roanoke, Virginia.
Tommy?
Should the authorization to release notice to a seller's lender be sent along with the management letter to get lender to send you notices and payment book, or should we just make payments directly to the seller's lender?
Just make payments directly to the bank. You don't make payments to the seller. Unless there's a whole lot of equity in it and you're not worried about the seller not making a payment with the money you send them. If the seller insists, I'll send them the payment and I ain't worried about it. But if there's no equity or a small amount of equity, I don't give them that choice. I insist that I send it directly to their lender so that it doesn't get sidetracked along the way. You don't need the payment book to make a payment. All you need is a loan number down in the left-hand corner of the check. I'd put the seller's name and the loan number down there to make sure it gets applied to the right account.
Okay, and he had another question. What do you mean by we are closed with the buyer on a sandwich lease when he sits in front of the attorney?
He's actually just closing the lease option agreement. He's not actually buying the house.
Okay. And do we form an LLC after we get an offer accepted or after our first deal for owner financing lease option?
Well, you don't ever have to form one at all if you don't want to. You can always buy the property and take title in a land trust without an LLC. But if you're going to get serious about the business, you're going to need an LLC sooner or later. Might as well do one now and use it to make the offer in.
Okay. All right, Randy Horton from Texas.
Randy?
I know that I will need an LLC eventually, but I can go ahead and start calling FSBOs on pretty houses.
Absolutely.
And if I find a deal,
Yes.
go
I just
ahead.
answered that.
Okay. Yep, you did. Okay. Next is Ronald McConnell from Texas.
Ronald McDonald?
Ronald McConnell. Did I say Ronald McDonald?
No, I did. I'm sure I'm not the first.
Okay, are people able to buy houses in the super hot Dallas area at a discounted price that allows for the cost of rehab and profit?
No.
I'm asking, does the formula of 70% less cost of rehab work here? I'm having a difficult time finding enough spread.
We're having a difficult time finding enough spread all over the country, Ronald, and it has nothing to do with Dallas. I'm having a problem here in Jacksonville. When you got a hot market like this, you've got a whole bunch of buyers coming out of the woodworks, and they're going to drive up the price. The owner occupants, if they're not too ugly, they know they can get a deal on them as well and get financed. So it's the times we're living in. Here's what I suggest you do, because this is what I'm doing. I'm working a whole lot less in the world of bank-owned properties today. In other words, not in the MLS, and I'm focusing on finding the FSBOs that are best suited for buying the lower-end stuff. So in Dallas, if I were you, I'd target the lower-end markets well above median price. Well above median price, because that's where your deals are anyway in the all-cash, wholesale, rehab, retail part of the business. And I'd hit them with letters, and I'd put out some I Buy House signs in those areas, and I'd do FSBO field agents in those areas. In other words, look for FSBO signs in those areas as well, and then work that side of the business. That's what you need to do to adapt to the time. Now, I still go on Listing Book every day and look for deals, but boy, they're far and few in between from even a year ago. I find myself today making very few offers on Listing Book. Even a year ago, I was making 15, 20 a week on there. So there's nothing I can tell you to make it easier to buy bank-owned properties today, because the market is going to overbid them. Here's what I can tell you. Do not violate my 70% of R minus repairs rules, or you're going to hate yourself. I'd rather you not buy an ugly house than pay too much for it. You can thank me later. Don't forget, there's always the pretty house business. There's a couple left of those in Dallas.
Okay, Ron, that's all we have today.
All right, good talking to you. I better see you at the summit. I'm going to take names of everybody watching today, and if you're not at the summit, I'm going to personally contact you and find out why. Go to RES 2017 right now and get registered for the Vegas Summit. It's coming up. It's not very far off. See you then.